Hello everyone and welcome back to Genuine Chit Chat, the podcast where we're going to help you grow through what you go through. Today I'm here with Phoebe for episode 7. How are you feeling?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited to discuss this topic. Well, not excited, but excited to hear about it and make awareness. So Phoebe has suffered with CVS and Hyperemesis, which are two different sickness illnesses which have really affected her throughout life, and she's here to raise awareness about them, show you how that she got through them, and show you how she's doing well today. So yeah, let's get into it. So welcome back everyone to this episode. So Phoebe, could you explain to us just a little bit what the two different illnesses are, and then we'll go on to how they both affected you?
So, cyclic vomiting syndrome, it's a really rare condition, and I honestly, I've never met anyone in my life that has had it.
Yeah, I've never heard someone that's had that before.
And it's just practically, like, I was just being sick for weeks on end, every 15 minutes.
And when did that start? Did it just come out of nowhere?
I was about 16, and I remember I woke up one morning and my whole family were away. My nan was like looking after me because I was an untrusted teenager. So my nan was half looking after me, and I just woke up and could not stop being sick.
And was it not from any, like, did you go out the night before or anything, or?
No, it was just, to be honest, I don't 100% know if this is the case, but I did used to smoke a lot of weed. That could have been one of
the causes.
Yeah, the causes. Yeah. But no one's 100% sure. That's the only thing I can put it down to. Hyperemesis is a sickness condition, but it's just during pregnancy.
Yeah. Okay, so it started with the CVS. So you said it was that morning when you woke up.
Yeah.
And you were 16. You just woke up and just couldn't stop being sick.
Yeah, I woke up, I just felt, you know, that feeling of a really, really, really bad hangover. And the feeling where, you know, when you're just about to be sick and you get that like
the whole
hot
wave.
flush and you just feel awful. It's like that times 1,000.
Really?
Yeah.
And is it like you can't hold it down at all? Like it just has to come up?
It just has to, because it kind of releases like the pain of that feeling of being sick.
Yeah.
I remember like saying to my nan, I was meant to go to college, and I remember saying to my nan, I really don't feel well. And my nan called up my mum, and my mum was like, "Oh, typical. Like, while we're all away, like she doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to go to school.
She's been the naughty teenager again."
And my nan was like, "No, she's really bad." And we lived opposite a doctor's surgery, but I just could not walk. I was bent over, just throwing up. My nan took me into the doctor's surgery, and they was like, "Oh, it's just like a sickness bug." So I went back home, continuously being sick, and my nan was like to me, like, get in a hot shower, because you know that sometimes makes you feel better. And I got in this hot shower, and I just had this urge to put it on the highest heat possible.
Really?
Because I don't know what the science is, but I feel like it was, you know, like when you have a baby, I don't know if you've heard of this, and they put like a Thames machine on you, which is distracting the pain of your contractions.
Oh no, I didn't know that, but is that what they do?
I think, yeah, but I think
that's why you wanted to do that.
That's why I wanted to be in a burning hot shower to
kind of distract that feeling.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And so you'd be probably burnt in that shower.
Yeah, I used to do it all the time.
Really?
Like every time I had an
And would you feel better when you were doing it?
I'd feel better, and then the minute I got out, I would just be violently sick.
So did it come in episodes, like you said? Was it maybe half an hour episode and then it would stop, or would it last the whole day?
I would be in some episodes for like 2 weeks.
No way. Yeah. And you'd be continuously sick
just
for 2 weeks?
Continuously sick.
And were you not able to eat or drink anything?
Eat. Everything I drank, I would just throw up. So I had to obviously go into hospital and get put on loads of drips.
Yeah, so how did that start by going into hospital? Because when did it get to that point when you were being sick and you're like, okay, this isn't just like a sickness bug, this is actually something more than that? When did you get into that?
I think I was about it's such a blur because I've kind of blocked it out of my memory, but I think it may have, my nan probably forced me to go to the hospital maybe within the day, and they just sent me home. They gave me a drip and sent me home.
And did you feel better after the drip
No,
or not?
I was still being sick. I was sick for like 2 weeks. I remember the first time it was 2 weeks I was sick for, maybe just under. And I remember my nan forcing ready salted crisps down me just to try and
put
she was
something
like, you're
in your
not
stomach.
eating. You're like, you need to eat. And I just couldn't eat anything.
Oh my God, that must have been awful.
Yeah.
I guess that must have made you scared because you just didn't know why
that
was happening to you. Like, looking back on that was like quite a scary time when it first started happening.
I don't think the first time I was scared. I think as it went on,
yeah.
It used to scare me a lot more.
So when did you actually get diagnosed with CVS? How did that come about?
It was quite a few years into it, and it was because of my mum. She was like the biggest advocate for me because I couldn't speak when I was in those episodes. I couldn't talk to anyone. My mum used to say it was like I was in a coma. I just used to lay there and obviously just cry sometimes.
That's awful.
And yeah, I couldn't speak to the doctors and tell them how I feel.
You felt, she had to do it for you.
So my mum had to do it for me, and my mum used to research all the time. The doctors even said to my mum at one point, like, have you got any medical history? Because she just knew everything. She used to just spend all night just trying to find out what it is.
Yeah.
And then she came across Cyclic Vomiting Syndrome, and there's all different stages to it, and the stages were like exactly my symptoms, like the hot flushes, just the throwing up, and then going into a bit of like a coma symptom.
And you just like weren't there in the room,
I just
basically.
wasn't there, yeah.
Wow.
And then the doctors basically confirmed, because they couldn't find anything.
So it was actually your mum that said it to them that make it think, wow.
Yeah, because it's such an unheard of condition. Anytime I said it to anyone, people would just be like, oh, what's that?
Yeah, because before you came on today, I had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a good thing to come onto this podcast to spread more awareness about it. Because I guess if you were going through this and you heard a podcast like this and you heard someone saying something similar,
it would have honestly
that would have
changed my whole
solved
life.
so much by not having to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And bless your mum actually putting in all the work
she
to
was honestly
look out
amazing.
for you. Wow. So once you then actually got diagnosed, what was the next steps from there? Were you still
It was
being
still
sick?
Yeah, I stopped being sick at about, I think I was about 19, 20.
Wow, so for like 3 years you were continuously just being sick?
Yeah, since I was 16.
Wow.
Yeah, so about 4 years. I still did have episodes, but at first it was a cycle of every 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah, so I was going to say, how like often were the episodes? So it started off every 6 weeks?
Yeah, so I would go into an episode every 6 weeks and then be in it between 1 to 2 weeks and then go back into one.
So was there anything that triggered it, or did it just come out of nowhere?
Yeah, I think lack of sleep, any sort of stress or anxiety, I think they were like my biggest triggers. Drinking alcohol, like even just having a hangover, it just used to send me straight into an episode.
Yeah, oh, that must be awful. Because I guess sometimes you didn't realise, like, is it a hangover or is it the sickness? And did that put you off drinking? Like, you don't want to...
I don't drink anymore.
Yeah, I guess because you were just so scarred by the sickness. You don't want to put yourself in that position where you could potentially go through that again.
Yeah.
Oh, so after you then got diagnosed, were you put on treatment? Like, how was it? Are you still getting episodes now?
No, I haven't had an episode for over a year now.
Wow.
Which is the longest.
That's
I think
so
the
good.
longest I went before was like 9 months without an episode. So there was so many things that it just took such a long time to actually
heal.
Yeah.
I guess because it's so new as well, like you don't actually know what's going on. And the fact that the doctors didn't really, like they only kind of said it because your mum said it.
Yeah.
I guess what was the actual help like after? Did they tell you what to do or not really?
Not really. They had no idea about it. We had one consultant who was pretty good, because the thing is I gained like a fear of the hospital, because my mum used to make me go in because I just used to not drink and eat or anything for weeks, and my mum used to make me go in, but then I'd be in A&E like sometimes for like 8 hours in that state I was in. it was just awful.
Yeah, you don't
and
have
I just
to
couldn't that. So they used to sometimes, my consultant wrote a letter and was like, if this girl comes in, you need to just send her straight in.
Yeah.
It was honestly so traumatic.
Oh my God, I can imagine. So what would you say the hardest challenges of going through that whole period was when you were dealing with that?
I found it really hard when I was going through all the tests. I had so many tests, and it was just everything came up clear. And I kind of wanted something to be wrong so that it could be fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was. Did you feel like you were just constantly searching for what the problem was, and
I
you just weren't
I just
getting
had
it?
no idea. And then obviously my mum found out it was CVS, but it was just awful. It really affected my mental health as well, because I just couldn't enjoy my life, because if I had something good coming up, it would just ruin it for me, because I'd go into a sickness episode.
Yeah. And I wonder if it was kind of, if you had something good going up and you were worried whether you go into an episode, whether you were like mentally sort of giving it that boost to actually come on, because you were thinking about, oh, this may happen when I go to this event, and then it actually would come on.
Yeah.
And you must have actually missed out on quite a lot of things by going through that.
I did. I missed out on loads of things, and there were so many holidays that I missed out on. I used to get sick on holiday, and I used to hate going away with my friends, because my mum and like my dad and my family were like my safety people. So if I wasn't around them, like I remember going to Ayia Napa for girls' holiday, and the whole time I just was so anxious, because I was so worried I was going to be sick. And no one understood what it was. They didn't know like how to deal with it. And I just hated it so much.
So your mental health like definitely declined from that point when you actually first found out. Do you feel like it was more before you knew what it actually was, and when you found out you kind of felt relieved, because it was like, okay, this is actually, we found out what it was and you can try and work from it?
No, because there was no cure for it.
So there wasn't any sort of tablets or anything they can give you?
They gave me so many tablets, but some of them just didn't work. They did in the end give me antidepressants, which they're quite rare ones. I don't know if they give them to a lot of people, and they did really help, because I don't know what the scientific terms of it is, but it, more than targeting your brain, it can target your stomach as well. Oh,
really?
Yeah.
And they helped out?
Yeah, they did help, but it just, there was other symptoms with them as well.
How did it end up sort of going away? Do you know why or how, or you just think it's as you've grown older, your body sort of just got used to it?
I think it was more clearing my mind, and my doctor came to my mum once, and they said to my mum, I think you need to read this book, and it was called All in the Mind. And my mum like started reading it, and it was about all these different people with different illnesses, but it was just their mind doing it to them.
Oh, really?
And doctors did used to say that to me, but I used to just go mental. Like, I used to be like, what do you mean? Like, the worst thing in the world that I feel right now, and the thing that I'm most scared of, you're telling me that I'm doing it to myself. And it used to just really frustrate me, because it used to make me think that it wasn't actually happening, but it was.
Like, that must have made you feel so delirious, like you weren't actually living in that position.
It used to confuse me so much, and if anyone said it to me, like, I'd get so annoyed. But actually taking a step back now and looking back at it, I realise that because I was so scared of being sick that it would actually happen.
Yeah, like, that's what I said about the event. Like, I guess it was I think originally the way it started, it wasn't your mind doing it, but I think the more you were being sick and the more regular the episodes was, it was your brain also playing a big part in that, and your mind saying, because you were so scared of it, it's like it was kind of egging it on to actually happen. But that's good that you've sort of learnt that now. You can look back on that.
I think it has made me a lot stronger, but I don't think it wasn't a nice thing to...
I mean, that's so good you had such great family around you to look after you like that, because that must have been so hard.
It was,
if you didn't have them.
If I didn't have them, I don't know what would have happened, because my mum just used to speak up for me all the time. I used to make my mum and dad stay in hospital with me because I hated leaving them.
Yeah.
If my mum even used to leave the room when I was in hospital, my eyes would I would be
You'd
so
be
ill, but
scared.
I'd just be, my mum said she just could see me looking around.
Yeah.
Maybe it was because I didn't feel comfortable enough being by myself, and I know I wasn't in that state of mind to actually speak up, and I kind of got fed up of speaking up in the end for myself because there were so many situations where I had to explain this condition to people, and people just wouldn't. It was kind of like it felt as if I was making it up, because people would be like, oh, it's just being sick. Like everyone's sick. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, because I was going to say that. It's like when someone says they've got cancer or something like this, it's like, oh, wow, that's like awful. But like you said, this condition, no one's really aware of it. That must feel, like you said, so much effort to have to speak about it, explain what it is. Because I guess when you're just saying it to them, they don't know the extremity to it. Like, they don't know how extreme the actual condition is.
And sometimes I would go weeks without speaking to any of my friends because I'd be in these episodes, and I just used to come back and pretend nothing happened. Obviously, I'd say to like my close friends, I've been sick, but I just didn't want to talk about it. You didn't want to go that
deep into it.
Yeah, I just didn't want to talk about it. So I think then, like, some of my friends knew how much it affected me, but I don't think they knew how much it, not even just me physically, like mentally, because physically I went down to like such a small weight.
Really?
I think I was about 6 stone at one point.
Stop it.
Yeah, because I was just losing so much weight all the time because of just being sick.
Yeah, because I guess you're not putting any nutrients into your body as well, and you're just constantly throwing everything up.
And doctors used to say to my mum, like, I'd go into the hospital and they'd be like, is she anorexic? And my mum was like, no, she doesn't want to be skinny. She just cannot stop being sick. That's why she has lost a lot of weight.
Wow.
Because I used to lose a stone every episode.
Wow, that's actually insane.
Yeah.
And it must have been frustrating to get to that point and still not really knowing what it was that was making you do that. It must just felt like you were constantly chasing for an answer, and it just wasn't turning up.
It was awful.
Wow. So that's good you've got past that now. I hope that doesn't come back again. Yeah. But at least say it did, which it won't manifest that. You kind of know how to deal with it better now compared to how it was then.
Yeah, and I did find a few things that helped. I was prescribed diazepam just to, if I was put into an episode, it would kind of reset my body because I could fall asleep, and I'd sometimes wake up and it would kind of be gone.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, my mum kind of figured that out. So there's been a few things that have helped, but it was just
it was a hard to go to.
Yeah,
that sounds awful. I don't know how you got through that. So did that then lead to the hyperemesis, or was that a completely different?
No, hyperemesis was completely different. Hyperemesis is just a pregnancy condition. So I didn't have episodes very much before I got pregnant. I got pregnant at, I think I was 20, and I was about 8 weeks old, and 8 weeks old.
You were pregnant at 8 weeks old.
I was about.
You were 8 weeks like along.
I was 8 weeks pregnant.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, I just all of a sudden started being sick, and it kind of felt.
Did you have like that PTSD? You thought, oh no, this is starting again.
Yeah, it was really awful. I was kind of hoping that it was just an episode, and it was just going to be 2 weeks, and I was going to be fine. But it wasn't.
Just got worse from then.
Yeah, it was.
So what happened with that? So you were sick at first, and then did you go back to the doctors, or did you just like take it as if it was an episode?
I just kind of took it as if it was an episode, but I was admitted into hospital 42 times, around that number.
Wow.
From just being pregnant, and bearing in mind pregnancy is 40 weeks.
So you so you literally more than just once a week.
Yeah.
That must have been so stressful. So did you enjoy your pregnancy, or was it kind of...
I hated it.
Really?
I really, really suffered, like, mentally. But I feel as if if I didn't go through my sickness, it would have affected me a lot more.
That's so true, because you sort of had the experience of how it felt to go through the CVS initially.
Yeah.
When you went through hyperemesis, you sort of knew how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So were you being as sick as much as you were initially when you had the first condition?
Yeah. It was
so it was like weekly still?
Yeah, it kind of... So I was in... Yeah, it was weekly, but it wasn't a cycle sort of thing. It was just more... You know, like morning sickness when you're pregnant. Yeah. It was like that, but just so severe.
Yeah, because I've heard that it's an extreme form of morning sickness. Like, it's not just an odd one. It was like every morning.
Yeah.
And was it just in the morning, or was it throughout the day?
It was just all day. Sometimes it would start in the middle of the night.
Oh, that's
and I'd
awful.
Just wake up like to go for a wee, and then I'd just start being sick.
And were you able to eat as well, or not really?
No, I literally lived off of plain pasta with butter and cheese. That's the only thing I could...
Does your baby love that now?
He don't like anything. He's probably so used to not eating anything.
He's like, I hate food.
But yeah, no, it was awful.
Oh my God. So do you think, if you could look back at both of them, which one do you think was harder to go through, or was it sort of non-comparable?
I think cyclic vomiting syndrome was harder purely because of the mental health I had from that. Mm-hmm. It was complete... I did feel depressed throughout my pregnancy, but I was able to manage it a lot better than what it was like when I was having CVS episodes.
Because I guess while you were pregnant, you sort of knew you only have this amount of weeks that it's going to last.
Yeah.
But CVS, you literally had no idea. It was just going on and just kept going.
Yeah, it was hard with hyperemesis though, because I found as if it was hard. I found my relationship with my partner really hard, because he obviously had doubts in the sense of like he was trying to go to work and provide and be excited for this baby to come, but he was constantly going out of work to take me to the hospital or waking up some days and thinking, oh, am I even going to go home tonight, or is Phoebe going to end up in hospital?
Yeah, so that affected your relationship with each other as well.
And I felt as if he did understand what I was going through, but when you're in that moment, you just feel like no one understands what you're going through.
Yeah. And was it right until the very end of the pregnancy that you were being sick?
Yeah, so I had my C-section at 38 weeks. Mm-hmm. So I think the last episode I had before that was like a week and a half, 2 weeks before that. Because I remember thinking like, I just have got to get through the next 2 weeks without being sick so I can get this baby out of me, basically.
And then what happened after the pregnancy?
It was fine. Everything, I did have a couple of episodes. Mm-hmm. I think that was obviously due to lack of sleep with a newborn baby and just stress I used to get flashbacks and things like that, and it used to trigger me. But I took the diazepams, and that just helps so much.
Oh, that's good.
It. Yeah.
That's good that you're saying that. So if people are listening to this and they're going through something similar, they know that if they take that, it could potentially make them feel better. Yeah. So was that like the only thing that would actually make you feel better in that state?
It was kind of hit and miss. Sometimes it had to be, because I knew when I was gonna go into an episode, I could just tell by... It sounds so weird, but by the way my sick was, it was like this like bright yellow.
Was it like that acid, like when you get like acid reflux and it comes from your stomach?
It was like a really yellow, it was kind of...
Like bile?
Yeah, it was like that, and I just knew as soon as I was sick like that, I thought, I'm going to go into an episode.
That must have been so scary.
Yeah, and luckily, I used to say to my mum, like, I feel like I'm going to have an episode, and she just used to give me one of them, but it used to affect so much because obviously working, how can I explain to work that, I've just had a diazepam,
and that must have really affected your mental health on top of everything else, that you couldn't just live a normal routine life. And I bet looking at all your friends around you that were just living their normal life, you must have been in this position where you just must have felt so low. I definitely did, especially with CVS. I remember the first couple of episodes I bounced back really quickly, and I was like, oh, okay, it's fine now, it's all over. And then the more they went on, the worse my mental health got. Like, I remember
being in hospital, and I think I was in there for quite a while, and the nurses and doctors tried to give me this tablet. I can't remember what it was called. It was just like a trial thing. And I remember my mum wasn't there. And all of a sudden, I just had these, about half an hour later, I just started getting this really heavy heart. My head, like, just felt like it was racing. I was like a rabbit caught in the headlights. I was, like, looking around. I felt so panicky, but I had no idea because I've never experienced any mental health issues before. And I remember screaming to the doctors, I need help, my heart, I feel like that tablet's reacted with me badly.
Mm-hmm.
They did an ECG and they was like, no, it's all fine. And I was like, no, it's not, honestly. And I called my mum, and my mum was like, Phoebe, I think you're having a panic attack. And I knew that there was such a thing as panic attacks, but I was adamant I wasn't. And my brother actually suffered with panic attacks and mental health issues. And my mum was like, you need to call your brother. And I called him, and he was like, you're having a panic attack. Like, you need to just try it. He taught me so much, like, to actually get through the panic attack. But ever since then, I was having panic attacks continuously. I went into just such bad depression, awful anxiety. I couldn't face going to work. I used to find the littlest things just so hard to do, like just getting up and making my bed or just making myself some breakfast. I just found it so overwhelming.
Wow, that is so awful that you had to experience it like that. And I feel like with panic attacks, a lot of people are aware about them. They know what they are, they know people that have had them. I feel like until you actually have one, you don't realise how extreme it actually, because I think I've had one before. I think it was when everything was happening while I was travelling. And it's like, did you get like pins and needles in your fingers? Like you just your whole body just goes completely numb, and you feel like you can't breathe.
And you're not in control of your own body.
Like
I wanted to just get up, and I don't know how my panic attacks weren't obvious if you saw me. Like I've seen people have a panic attack before.
You can tell by their face.
And I can tell by they've gone into a complete panic, whereas I would just sit there in silence, but everything was just, it didn't feel like me.
Wow, that's so bad.
Yeah, it was.
So that carried on, and how do you feel now, like, after all of this has happened? Do you feel like your mindset and everything has changed on life since it's been in your past?
Yeah, definitely. I had to kind of definitely go through that. I am happy I went through it in some ways, because I feel like it's made me appreciate just the smallest, littlest things in life, just being happy. That's
like the whole niche of this podcast, is like to grow through what you go through, and that's literally, you are like a prime example of that.
Because when you're in that bad of a mindset, if you had millions and millions and millions of money, you would pay all of that money just to make yourself feel better. It doesn't matter how much it costed, or you just would do anything.
Do anything to get there. Yeah. So now you're through it. What is there certain ways you look differently in life? Like you were saying, you just appreciate smaller things, or is there anything different you do now to what you didn't do then?
I think now I really try to release control of certain things, and back then when I was going through sickness episodes, I should have just rode the wave of it and do things to make myself feel better.
Yeah.
But I wasn't having any of it.
That's such a good lesson to learn, because it is, a lot of people don't realise there's things that are in your control and things that are out of your control. So for you, your sickness was out of your control.
Yeah.
But you could have controlled your mood on how you felt about it.
Yeah.
Whereas back then, you were probably so out of control. You were just getting so angered by the situation, which was then affecting your mental health.
I was honestly so angry at the world. I was so annoyed with everything. If anybody tried to tell me anything, I would just either go so mad at people, or I remember at one stage I just went completely numb. And I remember my dad saying to me, I need that fire back in you. Like, you've just got no fire in you. I want you to have a go at me and say, no, Dad, I don't agree with what you're saying there, or I think you're wrong. But I just used to go, okay. Like,
it felt like you must have lost you.
There was nothing in me. And I remember at one point, before I kind of was asking for help, my mum and my brothers, especially my older brother, he really knew that I was suffering with my mental health, but I didn't really tell anybody that much. I tell people now that I've had like mental health issues if people ask, obviously, or it comes up in conversation, because I don't feel like you should ever hide that.
No, absolutely not. But I think, like you're saying, you're more comfortable to speak about it now because it is more spoken about. Whereas back in the day, when you're at the age of going through it, it was embarrassing to speak about that. You didn't want to tell anyone you were going through that. And that's good that you've now got to that point that you do feel safe and comfortable speaking to people about it.
And I actually feel really passionate about, like, people. I think I find it, I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like it's such a good thing to talk. And I wish back then I just had the guts just to tell people, right, I'm suffering right now and I actually genuinely need help, because I just used to push it away. And I went to a psychiatrist appointment, and I remember her sitting in front of me and my mum sitting next to me, and she was talking and I was staring at her, but nothing was coming out of her mouth. Like, I just wasn't...
If you weren't taking it in.
I just wasn't taking anything in. And I remember walking out with my mum, and my mum was like, "Oh, that was quite positive, wasn't it, Phoebe?" And I was like, "No, that was..."
You just weren't taking it in.
I wasn't taking anything in.
Wow.
It was really awful.
I wonder how different it would be now if you were to experience that with your current mindset. Yeah. Like, I feel like it probably would be a lot different. And I feel like that does show how powerful the mindset it can be. But yes, it can. But also, as bad as it sounds, you do need to go through... Like, you don't have to go through awful things to have a good mindset at all. I'm not saying that. But it's so great that you've learnt to adjust to this new mindset by going through that situation.
Yeah. I really think it has well and truly been... It's such a bad thing, but a good thing has come out of it. And... At that moment in time, obviously you can't see any good in this. You just think, why is this happening to me? Why are all my friends out partying, drinking, and I'm in hospital in a sickness episode? And
that's a big thing. I feel like with life, majority of life, everything is temporary.
Yeah.
You think you're going to be stuck in that position forever. Oh my God, this is awful. This is never going to go. I hate my life. I'm missing out. And look at you now. Like, look how much your past self would love to be in your position right now.
I wish I could just go back to her and just show her that it is going to be fine. Because people used to say it to me and be like, you're going to get through this. And you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I felt so... It wasn't even just the sickness. It was the depression, the anxiety. I couldn't hold a job because... obviously of my sickness, and then I would have a fear of getting a new job because I'd be scared to let people down. And people, it was so awkward saying to people, "Oh, I have a sickness condition."
Yeah,
it's just
you didn't know how to address it.
It's so different if I was to say, "Oh, I have Crohn's," or "I have, I don't know, IBS," or something like that,
where it's more known about.
Yeah, whereas with that, I remember at work though, one of my managers was like to me, "Well, what do you mean? What, you can't just come into work if you're sick?" Like, just so silly things like that, and it made me feel like so small, because I'd see people come in and be like, "Oh, I've been sick this morning," and I used to think, "Oh my God, am I being over dramatic or?"
But you're not at all. It's just because it's good you're coming on here to speak about it, because people aren't aware of it. Even myself, before this episode, I wasn't aware of it. So it's the good thing you're doing now is spreading awareness, because I bet after this episode there will probably people that reach out to you and be like, "Oh my God, you've made me feel so much better because I'm going through this." Because like I said earlier, if you would have heard someone else going through it, it would have made you feel better. Really would. Wow, do you know what? It's so good. You've been so strong going through it, and I'm so happy you've come out the other end and you're feeling a lot better.
Yeah.
Feel like you're at that point where you can actually take a step back and be like, "Wow, I've actually got through this," and you feel good in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's so good. So towards the end of the episode, what sort of advice would you give to someone listening, whether it relates to your story or just a general piece of advice?
I just think you need to, if you're struggling with health issues or any mental health issues, I found this really hard, people saying to me, "You need to go for a walk or go to the gym or get a good job that you enjoy." It seems so overwhelming. If the smallest thing you can do is get up and brush your teeth and make your bed, then that's amazing. It's not all about, oh, you need to order a journal and start journaling and manifesting. They do come at a point, but you need to focus on the normal things that you used to do or you do every day, and get that back before you start thinking about going to the gym or going to work. Just find yourself a little bit and make small minor changes, and that's when you'll get on the right path again.
Wow, that's such a great way to look at it, because I feel you're right. When someone's suffering through like bad mental health phase or physical health phase, a lot of people say, do this, start exercising, start doing this. It's like you're going from 0 to 100. It's like you need those baby steps to be able to get halfway. Then you can do those things that people are telling you to do. But it's a lot easier for someone to tell you to do that when they're not in your position.
Exactly, and it becomes so overwhelming that at the end you push that person away from wanting to do anything like that.
Yeah. Also, at the end of the episode, do you have a favourite song to suggest? One that makes you feel good?
I would say Suddenly I See.
Oh, I love that song.
Is it by Katie Tunstall?
Something like that. Suddenly I see. This is how it's supposed to be. Oh, meant to be. Yeah, I know that one so well.
But yeah, I like that song.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Well, honestly, that flew by. But thank you so much for coming on this episode.
Thank you for having me.
Your story is amazing, and great that you're giving awareness about your condition. And you should be so proud of yourself getting through it and how you are now. So thank you everyone for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.